Paul, I wanted to jump in and go through, while we have some time, the WikiLeaks cables that we're going to send to Trump, because there's a couple of here that are extremely important for people to know. If they haven't gotten the book Shell Game, it's in there, but I want to read them now, and I've got them on the screen so people can print screen, save them as PDFs, save them as JPEGs, send them to their members of Congress as attachments. But these are unclassified, but I'm going to read a couple points right now. One of the cables that came from WikiLeaks, reference ID 08BERN552. And keep in mind, Bern, Switzerland, which is the city that's referenced, this came out of Bern, Switzerland. Edward Snowden was assigned to Bern, Switzerland as a CIA analyst, so he would have seen all this. Bern, Switzerland, and more of the document trail is up there. They can look at the numbers. But I wanted to cite one particular area, and that is the area of the State Department that I worked in. And my chicken scratch notes are on these cables. When Brad gave them to me, I started connecting the dots, and I said, Brad, I worked at the coordinator for counterterrorism's office. I was at the State Department in 2008 when this was written. And up here we see the timeline and the year when it was written. So it says at paragraph, I think it's paragraph 4, SBU, Ambassador Christine Schreiner-Bergener, EDA coordinator for counterterrorism, emphasized Switzerland's support for a proposal it has made along with several other countries to develop a review panel that would provide expert non-binding advice to the United Nations Security Council 1267 Sanctions Committee regarding whether certain individuals should be removed from the sanctions list. It goes on to talk about the European decisions. This all relates to the Swiss banks being exposed by Birkenfeld, and that tidal wave opened up the door for the State Department to begin harassing the government of Switzerland. Now, the government of Switzerland, in these emails and these WikiLeaks cables, the government of Switzerland is saying, we have given UBS millions and millions of dollars. And if you take out UBS in a lawsuit with the Department of Justice, you are going to be taking out the Swiss government. You're going to be hurting the Swiss government. And they say it here specifically, the financial crisis impact on Swiss banks. As reported in reference A, the government of Switzerland provided UBS, Switzerland's largest bank, a $60 billion rescue package that has been approved by Parliament. The SNB has now created a special purpose vehicle, the SNB Stab Fund, to acquire the illiquid assets of UBS. The first tranche of assets was acquired on December 16th, whereby UBS transferred slightly over 2,000 security positions, $16.4 billion. A majority of the assets were U.S. and European residential and commercial mortgage-backed securities. That's a big one. The majority of the assets were U.S. and European residential and commercial mortgage-backed securities. So these mortgage-backed securities and the role of UBS and its effect on the 2008 financial crisis was one of the reasons that they went after Birkenfeld to bury all of this. And I'm going to go down to the point where it mentions Birkenfeld more specifically. Let's see. Department of Finance, Deputy Head of International Finance and Monetary Policy, met on October 20th to discuss the current financial crisis. He commented that, quote, he does not expect a severe recession. Well, this was just in 2008 when the crisis started. Switzerland did not have a housing sector bubble or credit crunch. Let's see, it goes on. I've highlighted these key parts, so I'm just reading the highlighted versions because everything else is government intel sort of stuff. And again, this came to Brad Birkenfeld from WikiLeaks, and it was just miraculous because it was at the same time that I worked at the State Department. And it mentions, let's see, Increasing use of financial networks by inappropriate individuals and organizations require that all countries work together to stop nefarious activities. That was another term for terrorist financing. I want to get to the Birkenfeld area here. Let's see. Post has identified two entities that fit into the category supplied by state CT, state counterterrorism, the Swiss pharmaceutical industry and the Swiss banking system. Those are two areas that were in danger of being targeted by terrorism. And if they were destabilized, it would cause a destabilization of Europe. And they say that. The Swiss financial system is the fourth largest in the world, trailing only New York, London, Tokyo. The main center in Zurich and the secondary center in Geneva control 1/3 of the world's private overseas wealth. Given the current global financial crisis, an attack that successfully shut down the system or severely crippled the confidence in the banking system could significantly impact the global financial network and further escalate the severity of the global economic turndown. This is back in 2008, 2009, right around the cusp. This is around December. And they were all talking about how fragile the Swiss bank financial system was given the 2008 financial crisis that was starting to bubble over. And because of all this intel and these recommendations from State Department agents, they went after Brad Birkenfeld to shut all this down, create deals with the Swiss to put all this away. Hillary Clinton made a deal with the Swiss to send Chinese Uyghurs from Guantanamo Bay up into Switzerland in exchange for only going after 25% of the bank accounts that Brad came after and throwing Brad Birkenfeld in prison. That's the biggest thing. An American citizen who brought over financial bank accounts that were connected to terrorist financing, instead of going after those accounts, instead of keeping our military men alive, instead of keeping our allies alive, instead of keeping these people from entering Europe and all this money creating avenues for the destabilization of Libya and now Syria, all of this stuff that has metastasized since 2008, instead of going after all this, they went after the whistleblower Brad Birkenfeld himself and threw him in prison to bury all this. And it wasn't but for divine providence, where I met him, that all of this stuff was given to me, and my job was tracking it in the first place. That's where things take essentially the surreal. Now, here's the key point where they finger Birkenfeld. SBU, Urban Eberle, CEO of Bank Alpine, took pains and is assuring the DCM on the margins of the meeting that LGT was not operated like UBS, whose bankers intentionally skirted U.S. tax laws by aiding and abetting its U.S. clients through measures such as, here it comes, smuggling diamonds out of the U.S. in toothpaste. Diamonds in the toothpaste tube. That was done by Brad Birkenfeld. It was told on 60 Minutes. Brad said it himself. It came out of his lips. He said it to every reporter that he ever interviewed with. Diamonds in the toothpaste was the calling card of Brad Birkenfeld coming over. And here you have it in the State Department cable, and I'll come up here to the title, State Department cable 08 BERN 527, created on 10/10/2008 at 2:44 p.m. Let's say that again, 10/10/2008, 2:44 p.m., unclassified. From Embassy Bern, this is where Edward Snowden was a CIA analyst, was in Bern. This is the WikiLeaks, this is the State Department cable. This was all proof of Edward Snowden's CIA targeting Brad Birkenfeld, who was smuggling diamonds in the toothpaste. And they're all talking about it. Eberle said, I would never smuggle anything to one of my clients as if there was a measure of responsible banking practices. Fritz defended Liechtenstein banking practices, commenting, Liechtenstein is not the bad guy around the world. Big law firms stretch tax planning and use Liechtenstein as a Switzerland. That big law firm is Cummington and Burling. But that's the biggest smoking gun, is bankers intentionally skirted U.S. tax laws by aiding and abetting its U.S. clients through measures such as smuggling diamonds out of the U.S. in toothpaste. Well, you know what? Let's use the same exact language that this State Department CIA intelligence asset just used. That agent of the United States government said, quote, aiding and abetting its U.S. clients. Well, Hillary Clinton aided and abetted Brad Birkenfeld in financing and processing these diamonds in the toothpaste. She aided and abetted this operation by looking the other way, by not exposing it, not giving it to the military, covering it up, making deals with the Swiss to give this money to the Clinton Foundation. This is the email that Donald Trump needs to trumpet from the podium and say, right here, we've got diamonds in the toothpaste coming out of a State Department cable that talks about burying Brad Birkenfeld, and all of this has gone, invisible. These are the emails that will also be contained on her private server. She will be mad dashing and saying, in reference to this email, I want money given to the Clinton Foundation. In reference to this Swiss banker who we're going to throw in jail, I want you to make a deal with me to give Bill Clinton a job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to read a couple other lines. I'm going to give it back to you, Paul Preston. Thomas Pletcher, executive board member of Economie Suisse, Switzerland's largest umbrella organization for Swiss business and industry, echoed Neville's sentiments, calling the agreement a relief. That was the U.S. Agreement that Hillary was putting together. Pletcher stated that overall industry response had been positive. He told Econoff, overshadowing and seriously damaging, that a long drawn-out court case posed a danger of overshadowing and seriously damaging otherwise good bilateral relations. So what this guy has said, he's a Swiss guy, a Swiss government guy, he's gone to Hillary Clinton and said, look, if you take us to court, if you get Brad Birkenfeld and all of his documents and all of his cables and all of his proof, we're going to have a long, drawn-out court case, and it's going to seriously damage our bilateral relations between the United States and Switzerland. So do us all a favor, throw this guy in prison and bury it, and we'll give you whatever you want, Hillary Clinton. That's the deal she made. That's the deal that the American public do not know about. That's the deal that Donald Trump needs to stand up at the podium and say, I just discovered something, ladies and gentlemen. Remember my request for emails and cables? Well, we got something. And this is the deal that Hillary Clinton made. In addition, the agreement established a procedure to avoid a clash of the two countries' legal framework. Pletcher, that right there, as Michael J. just pointed out, Loretta Lynch in the legal framework of the United States just made a deal with Hillary Clinton and Eric Holder and Lanny Brewer to not prosecute Union Bank of Switzerland, to give them a 2% fine. And she did this with Tim Geithner in New York at the same time. All of these people are tarred and feathered with the same brush.
Let me ask you this, Scott, though.